Hi everyone, I'm Walnut and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet VGC video. Today we're going to be learning to use Shohei Kimura's World Champs team, and I say learning because I actually haven't played any practice with this team yet. I wanted to go into this video with no practice just to show off the learning process as we use this team. But I have watched the games and taken some notes, so I'll be using those, but today we're going to be skipping straight into the battles. Timestamps, rental, and Pokepaste are in the description below. And while you're down there, I'd really appreciate if you considered liking and subbing to the channel. It really helps a lot. But now, let's get into the first 4 battles. Alright, and our first opponent here is going to be using a Dondozo and Tatsugiri team with 2 weathers on it, with Abomasnow to set up snow and Pelipper to set up rain. Who knows, maybe Tornadus has got rain or snow or maybe even sunny day on their team for some reason. Though that'd be kinda crazy to be honest. They also have Palafin, another powerful water type on their team, so I really thought that this team was just shouting like rain mode. I really didn't know what the Abomasnow was doing there. I guess Tornadus could kind of act like a Pelipper and set up rain manually, and maybe Tailwind manually too. But I mean, I didn't know what else they would do besides the same thing Pelipper does, but also go for like Bleak Wind Storm, stuff like that. But yeah, I was mostly scared of the Dondozo Tatsugiri going into this battle, but I did think that my own Amoonguss looked quite good here. I'm a little bit scared of like blizzards from Abomasnow, but I do have Terra Water on Amoonguss, and Terra Water would help me into the water types as well. I didn't really want to bring in like Landorus or anything to like go for Intimidates, mostly because they do have a bunch of water types, they have the ice types, and if it's like a Pelipper Dondozo, I feel like it also might be a Surf Dondozo, and Intimidate won't help versus that. But I can run something like Iron Hands, go for a Fake Out, maybe threaten the Spore as well in the lead, so that's why I led the Amoonguss Iron Hands here. And I was also thinking about Flutter Mane to just deal a bunch of damage. I could also go Terra Grass on Flutter Mane to help me resist any water moves and deal a bunch of damage with Energy Ball, but instead I decided to go for Chien-Pao's Sacred Sword, which looked pretty good, and also Urshifu to help me resist the water moves they might go for. But yeah, really should have considered like Terra Grass Flutter Mane here. And my opponent is actually going to be leading Tatsugiri and Abomasnow, so definitely a combination I was not expecting. Especially just snow in general, was not keeping that on my radar. But you know, Amoonguss and Iron Hands here are pretty threatening. I could go for a Fake Out Spore, but I really want to just get rid of that Tatsugiri right away. If I can get rid of the Tatsugiri, then I won't have to deal with the Dondozo, so I decided to protect the Amoonguss and just go for a Wild Charge into the Tatsugiri, just looking for some straight up damage. I don't think they'll bring in the Dondozo right away, especially since they're setting up the snow. I feel like there's probably a reason they wanted to do that. So yeah, just gonna go for the Wild Charge into the Tatsugiri. I have an Assaultus on Iron Hand, so I'm not too worried about the special damage here. And I don't think it's very common for Abomasnow and VGC to run Earthquake. My opponent's actually just gonna Terra right off the bat. Thought, you know, maybe it's a Terra Ghost on Tatsugiri or something, but it's actually a Terra Ghost on Abomasnow. Probably looking to dodge a Fake Out, maybe a Drain Punch as well. But we were not aiming at the Abomasnow anyways, and they're actually going to go for a Helping Hand with the Tatsugiri as we go for a Protect on our Amoonguss, staying nice and safe. With that Terra Ghost now, they're no longer a Grass type, so we could Spore that slot if we wanted to, and my opponent's just going to go for a Blizzard here. 100% accurate into the Iron Hands, but only does about a quarter of our HP. And Wild Charge does, honestly, not as much as I'd like into the Tatsugiri. A little bit over 50%, and they actually eject us out with a red card, which kind of shocked me. So goodbye Iron Hands, and hello Urshifu. So at least it's another Pokemon who will gladly take blizzards, but I am a little bit scared. Maybe the Iron Hands has Energy Ball, maybe they want to switch it up. But I don't think you would ever Energy Ball my Amoonguss here, so I go for a Terra Water and a Spore. I don't really want to Spore the Tatsugiri just because if I do put the Tatsugiri to sleep, I'm pretty sure he'd be happy just sleeping in the Dondozo's mouth. So I'm actually just going to go for the Spore onto the Abomasnow and just protect the Chien-Pao the Urshifu this turn. I don't think I needed to, but it just felt pretty good. I didn't want to like take too much damage, even though the Blizzard wouldn't be doing too much here. So yeah, we're gonna go for the Terra, just in case they do go for a Blizzard. We don't want to be taking too much damage on the Amoonguss. Terra Water will help us into the Dondozo potentially as well, depending on what moves they have, or what Terra type they are. But they're actually just gonna go for another Helping Hand here. If it's a Blizzard, we're gonna eat that up, no problem. If it's an Energy Ball into Urshifu, no problem as well, but it is just a Blizzard. Our Water type Amoonguss will be happily taking that damage. About a quarter of our HP, we can just regenerate or heal it up. And we're gonna put the Abomasnow to sleep here. So I'm not too worried about the Tatsugiri in this position. I decide to just go for a Surging Strikes into it. Maybe it'll get the KO. I ran a calc and it's about 30 something%, which I honestly don't think will KO here, so maybe I should have doubled it with some damage if I wanted the KO, but I ended up sporing into the Abomasnow slot, expecting a switch, and they do go for the switch here. So just to cover for this Dondozo switch, I went for the spore into that slot, even though it was already asleep. I don't think you really keep the Abomasnow in. And luckily we get that part right, kind of like a mid-ground play, I'd say. I probably would have spored it the following turn if it didn't switch out, and if it does switch out on the next turn to avoid the Urshifu KO onto the Tatsugiri, that's fine. Dondozo is still going to sleep. And there it goes. The thing is, my Amoonguss isn't really doing too much into the sleeping Dondozo. I'm not really able to Pollen Puff my Urshifu just yet either, so I decided to go for a switch right away. Thing is, do I switch into the Iron Hands or the Chen Pao? I decided to go for the Chen Pao just because I can bring in the Iron Hands later and go for the Fake Out when it does wake up or something. And with the Chen Pao, I can just immediately start going for the Sacred Swords and ignoring its defense boosts. But yeah, definitely could have considered bringing in the Iron Hands and just going for Wild Charge straight up. That would have done so much damage into the Water type if they stayed it. And with the Urshifu, I just go for a Surging Strikes. By getting damage into the Dondozo, we also might get some information from it, find out if it's got like a Leftovers as an item. And at the time, I was considering going for a Taunt on the Dondozo around by the time I expect it to wake up. That way it can't go for Protects the stall with Leftovers healing. But then I realized it wouldn't really want to do that, because if you do Protect, I have Unseen Fist that hits straight through you, and you're not going to be getting much Leftovers healing when I'm hitting you 3 times. And it is our Leftovers. But yeah, no taunt from us. We're just going to be attacking here with the Sacred Sword and the Surging Strikes. But unfortunately, Dondozo wakes up after just 1 turn of sleeping and uses Order Up on our Chen Pao, but because they set up the snow, we have a defense boost because we're an Ice type. So luckily we take that a little bit better. Sacred Sword does pretty good damage into the Dondozo, and with the Surging Strikes, the Dondozo is going to be brought down pretty low. The thing is, it does still have the Leftovers recovery, so it's going to heal up just out of range of a Sucker Punch. So we can't go for that, and we do know the Dondozo is faster than our Chen Pao. Snow also ends here, so we're a little bit worried of getting KO'd. But I do think that a Sucker Punch plus Aqua Jet would KO. I don't think if you protected you would escape the range of Sucker Punch plus Aqua Jet, so I'm not too worried about that. And it looks like we won't actually need to bring in the Amoonguss or Iron Hands anymore to help deal with this Dondozo. I kind of expected to just get KO'd here. Maybe they have some sort of... Nope, they don't have anything they can do, never mind. They already teared on the Abomasnow, so can't tear this Dondozo. Sucker Punch brings it down very low, and Aqua Jet is enough to finish it off. That was actually in my notes somewhere. Aqua Jet is just really good at finishing things off. Like you can take down a Flutter Mane if it has low HP, just a lot of things. I guess even a Dondozo. Unfortunately, we don't get the extra hit into the Tatsugiri, but it's actually Baby Palafin in the very back. I was expecting something like a Tornadus, maybe even the Pelipper for a second weather, but not expecting a Baby Palafin in the back, just because, you know, it's already pretty late in the game. It's going to be pretty difficult for my opponent to switch out, bring it back in. If I had managed to KO the Abomasnow earlier, they would be stuck with the Baby Palafin if they brought in the Dondozo for the Abomasnow, but I guess you could just bring in the Palafin first and then bring in the Dondozo, but then you're not really attacking for a turn. Yeah, I'm expecting the Baby Palafin to switch out here. Either way, I'm not too worried about their team because I have Terra Water Amoonguss. And my opponent actually just ends up forfeiting here. I think this battle, my Amoonguss really just shut them down. I think they were really scared of it, so they went with the Terra on the Abomasnow early and then they spammed Blizzards. But then I went for Terra Water and then I just put their Abomasnow to sleep. I put their Dondozo to sleep. Like they only got a little bit of damage off onto my hands and Amoonguss. They got one attack off into my Chien-Pao, but by then they only had like 2 Pokemon left essentially, and I had 4. So pretty clean game 1. So this next team is pretty unique. They have Ting-Lu, Talonflame, Iron Bundle, Glamora, Baxcalibur, and Urshifu. So they got some mons that aren't too common in Regulation D. Definitely have seen them before in Regulation C, so it's a little nice to just see some old faces. But I don't know which Urshifu that is. I'm a little bit scared of the dark one. Wicked Blow is just super strong, but I mean I do have a couple Wicked Blow resists on my team. And I think Iron Hands looks really good here. Not only could it potentially resist Wicked Blow, but I do have Fake Out and like Drain Punch for Baxcalibur and Ting-Lu. The Fake Out could break the Gale Wings if I'm scared of the Talonflame, which I'm honestly quite scared of. If it has Will-O-Wisp and burns my physical attackers, that could stop them. It also could have Taunt to taunt my Amoonguss. So yeah, pretty threatening mon overall. I think I'm going to be looking to lead Iron Hands plus Flutter Mane. Maybe go for like a Fake Out plus Shadow Ball onto their Flutter. I guess I could have also went for Fake Out plus Surging Strikes with the Urshifu. But I thought the Flutter looked pretty good. That way if they would go for a Terra Ghost on the Talonflame, then my Shadow Ball should just KO it if they try to avoid the Fake Out. Besides that, I thought the Amoonguss looked pretty good into their team, especially if I can get it in safely without the Taunt and then go for a Terra Water. And then lastly, I thought the Urshifu looked pretty good. Didn't really want to bring the Landorus into like an Iron Bundle plus Baxcalibur since they've got quite a bit of ice moves. And I guess the Chien-Pao wouldn't be too bad, but I thought some of their team would be a little bit hard for Chien-Pao to hit. If I brought it in versus the Iron Bundle, they could pretty easily just go for Icy Wind to break my Sash and then KO me with their partner slot, I think. So yeah, didn't feel too good about bringing the Chien-Pao, but it's actually going to be Glamora plus Talonflame in the lead. This Glamora could also break my Sash if it sets up a Toxic Spikes, but I do have the Amoonguss in the back to pick him up if I do set him up. But yeah, this turn we're just going to stick with the plan, go with a Fake Out onto the Talonflame, try to break the Gale Wings, and then Shadow Ball it to get the KO. Usually I'm not too worried about the Glamoras because I've been running a Cresselia team, but Cresselia Lunar Blessing is going to help me out here because yeah, I don't think my team's too worried about the Glamora here just because I have an AV on Iron Hands and Ghost does allow me to resist poison, but they do go for a Quick Guard on the Talonflame, allowing them to ignore this Fake Out here. So I don't think this Shadow Ball is actually going to pick up the KO anymore. And then in a little bit, I hope I'm going to realize that my Flutter Mane's actually not faster than max speed Talonflame, which could be a problem. We will go for a pretty powerful Earth Power into Iron Hands, but we do tank it. Is less than half. So yeah, I'm gonna be checking my speed. I'm gonna realize max speed Talonflame is like 195, 196, somewhere around there, but this Flutter Mane is only 193. I'm not too surprised that it's not EV to outspeed a Talonflame. It's already outspeeding most other Flutters, and Talonflame's just not too common in this format. So yeah, we're just gonna go for a Shadow Ball. Maybe they get a Wisp off, maybe they get a Tailwind off, but you can only pick one. You're not gonna get too much value out of the Talonflame here. Like you, I guess, dodge that Fake Out. But you're not gonna actually get a move off, because my Fluttermane outspeed your Talonflame, so it must not be max speed or something. Talonflame goes down, so luckily we get rid of any potential taunts or wisps from that thing, and they just go for a Power Gem into our Fluttermane. It's kind of telling me that they don't have Sludge Bomb, or else I would expect them to go for it, unless they were really breeding hard into like a Fluttermane switch into Amoonguss or something. Yeah, we get some healing back. We do set up the Toxic Spikes, but that's what the Amoonguss in the back is for. So Ting Lu is going to be switching in next. And versus Iron Hands, Drain Punch looks really great into the Ting Lu. The thing is, it seems a little bit too obvious to the point where I expect the Ting Lu to go for a Terrestrialization this turn, potentially into like Terra Poison to resist Fluttermane's Fairy moves, which I would have to switch out to use, or my fighting moves from the Iron Hands. I'm looking to bring in the Amoonguss here to pick up the Toxic Spikes and maybe bring in the Urshifu as well to help deal with these guys. So I'm going to be Volt Switching, and I initially targeted the Ting Lu with the Volt Switch because I do expect it to go for the Terra, and I was going to switch the Fluttermane for Amoonguss, but I was a little bit worried about like a Heavy Slam into the Amoonguss, just because Amoonguss is a light Pokemon, so it would do quite a bit of damage. I ended up deciding to target the Glimmora with the Volt Switch instead, just in case the Ting Lu does not go for a Terra, just so then I ensure the pivot. I guess I could have also Volt Switched my Amoonguss, but I don't really see a point in doing that. I didn't want to Volt Switch or Hard Switch the Iron Hands to Amoonguss just because of the turn order, or the switch order. I didn't want Urshifu to get poisoned, and the Ting Lu actually ends up turning into a ground type, so I'm glad I didn't Volt Switch into that. Earth Power into the Iron Hands brings me below half now, and drops our Spadef, but you know, we're switching out, we're going to reset that real quick. I expected myself to go before the Ting Lu because I do have quite a bit of speed investment on this Iron Hands. So we're able to not get hit by the Ting Lu before we switch out. Here's Urshifu. It could take a Stomping Tantrum pretty easily if they go for that, which they do, but it's actually into the Amoonguss, which honestly does decent damage with that Terra Ground. Now I can go for Surging Strikes into a slot. I could also Spore a slot, and I'm going to decide to Spore the Glimmora and Surging Strikes the Ting Lu. I didn't have too much reasoning for this. I feel like I could have done it the other way around. I could have maybe double targeted a slot. But I mean, Amoonguss is moving last anyway, so I expect both my opponents to attack first. Maybe I should have Surging Striked the Glimmora instead of the Ting Lu, because Ting Lu ends up surviving the Surging Strikes. So that way I'd only be taking one hit, because Glimmora goes for an Energy Ball here, probably the only move it could have that would threaten my Urshifu. But Ting Lu goes for Ruination instead of Stomping Tantrum, which cuts my already halved HP in half. Or I guess it's not halved, but you know, reduced HP. So Glimmora goes to sleep here, and at this point I feel pretty safe. I can get a double KO here. I was like, maybe I go for Aqua Jet. It doesn't really make sense to go for Aqua Jet into Ting Lu, but I could like Surging Strikes it, I guess. I could also Surging Strikes the Glimmora. But then I realized I don't really need the the Urshifu anymore. Already dealt with their Glimmora and Ting Lu pretty well, so I can just get the double KO here and just count on the rest of my Pokemon to deal with whoever's in the back. Maybe it's the Iron Bundle or Baxcalibur. But yeah, I'm just gonna go for Surging Strikes into the Glimmora and then Pollen Puff the Ting Lu for the KO. I'm not gonna Pollen Puff my Urshifu just because I am slower than the Ting Lu with my Amoonguss, most likely, so. Or not most likely, but for sure. So yeah, one Surging Strikes is all we need. There goes the Glimmora. I also considered going for a Rage Powder here. I don't think the Ting Lu would be Safety Goggles, but I did not think that the HP on Urshifu, or just Urshifu being alive, was necessary in me winning this battle. I'd rather have the HP on Amoonguss. And then maybe the next turn I can threaten Spore. I also have Fake Out in the back with Iron Hands, which is really good. So let's see who their last Pokemon is here. I've already seen the Talonflame, the Glamora, and the Tinglu. They have Baxcalibur, Iron Bundle, and Urshifu left. I'm going to bring in the Iron Hands first to threaten Fake Out plus Spore, but if I don't have to go for that, you know, I do have other plans. Because here comes Urshifu. They could go for a Detect this turn. So instead of going for the Fake Out Spore, also yeah, I get poisoned, but the battle's ending soon anyways, I don't think it matters. But instead of going for the Fake Out plus Spore since they could Detect, I end up going for a Fake Out plus Side Pollen Puff, just to guarantee the HP. After that, I would not expect a Surging Strikes to ever knock out my Iron Hands from there, so I felt pretty safe going for this play. Yeah, they don't Protect here. I was like, maybe they're Scarf or something, which is why they wouldn't go for Protect. I feel like otherwise you would Protect every day of the week. Yeah, now I can just go for Terra Water plus Wild Charge just to be extra safe, I guess. And then I thought I might as well just Spore with the Amoonguss. I guess I could have also just Pollen Puffed into the Iron Hands as well, but I think with the Wild Charge, and since they can't Terra anymore, they should just guarantee the win. With the Terra Water Wild Charge. So Urshifu's actually going to go for Aerial Ace here, but it still doesn't pick up the KO on the Amoonguss, not enough damage there. So we're still going to get this Spore off potentially, I mean, if it lives, which it won't. The Wild Charge is going to pick up the KO. I'm pretty sure this Iron Hands will always KO Water Urshifu with a Wild Charge, but I don't think it'll always KO the Dark one with the Drain Punch, it might depend. But yeah, that's going to be the second battle. In the second battle, I think getting rid of the Talonflame is really good for my team. Just not having to worry about Will-O-Wisp or Taunt onto the Amoonguss allowed me to really utilize the Amoonguss plus Urshifu around the middle of the game to help me pick up a double KO versus the Glamora and Tinglu, and then versus the lonely Urshifu in the back. The rest of my team was able to handle it. Alright, our next opponent is using Tinglu, Cresselia, Zapdos, Regidrago, Torkoal, and Hariyama. So their team looks like a Trick Room team to me. I guess they could also have like Tailwind with Zapdos, but with the Hariyama, Cresselia, and like Torkoal, you probably have a Trick Room mode there. Maybe you have like a Tailwind mode with like Zapdos, Regidrago, stuff like that. Their team... It's not looking like I want to bring Urshifu here because they do have like Sun with the Torkoal to reduce my water damage. They also have Static probably on their Zapdos, so if I try to Surging Strikes that slot, it's pretty likely that I'll get paralyzed at the end of it. But I think their team doesn't look like it deals with Spore very well unless they have like a Safety Goggles Cresselia. If they have Torkoal, I can just put it to sleep before it attacks unless they have Trick Room up because I expect the Torkoal to be like min speed. So I'm probably looking to bring like Fake Out plus Trick Room in the lead here. Or not Fake Out Trick Room, Fake Out Spore. I think they might like try to lead Fake Out Trick Room. So we'll see what we can get done. I know I want to bring Flutter Mane. It'll help me versus like Hariyama potentially, or I can eat Dragon Energies from the Regidrago. Shadow Ball's also really nice, like Specs Shadow Ball for Cresselia. And, you know, I didn't want to bring the Urshifu. Didn't feel like Lando was too necessary either, so I brought Chien-Pao. Icicle Crash Flinches might be pretty unique to help, you know, sneak out a win if I end up in a bad position. Or I can go for Sucker Punches in the Trick Room because they don't have a way to stop priority. My opponent's actually just going to lead the Regidrago plus the Hariyama here, and right off the bat, we kind of have a problem. His Hariyama is way bigger than my hands. I don't know why I was like so confused about this during the actual like recording, but still wanted to get that point across. Our hands is very small, but you know, big things come in small packages. We're going to use Fake Out here on the Regidrago. I don't know Hariyama's speed or base speed, so I'm not actually sure if my Fake Out will be faster. And then I'm also just going to Spore the Regidrago. I guess I could have Spored the Hariyama if I expected the Flame Orb, because the Flame Orb procs at the end of the turn. So maybe I could have stopped them from doing any extra damage, but I really wanted the Regidrago not to go for Dragon Energies. I don't know how much it does into Amoonguss, so I'd rather have that than go to sleep. But we are actually faster on the Iron Hands, which I guess in hindsight it makes sense to me because their team looks like it has a pretty solid Trick Room mode, so you might want to min speed Hariyama. So we end up just getting a free Spore off onto the Regidrago here. Hariyama's still up and at him, but you know, it's not dealing too much into our Amoonguss or Iron Hands. This turn, I'm going to go for a Drain Punch into the Regidrago just to reduce its HP. That way, if it does want to go for Dragon Energy, it's going to deal a lot less. And with the Amoonguss, I thought I might as well just Spore into their Hariyama. Pollen Puff into my own guy doesn't look too good, so I'm not really expecting a switch from them this turn. They did switch. They're still asleep, and they're not really like set up to deal a lot of damage just yet. So yeah, I feel pretty solid about just putting the Hariyama to sleep. Afterwards, we can maybe choose to do something else with the Amoonguss. But yeah, it was not a Flame Orb on the Hariyama, which is just pretty unusual. We do get a pretty big Drain Punch crit there. I don't think it was too necessary because I was planning on just getting the 2-hit KO anyways. Hariyama goes for a knockoff onto Amoonguss. Deals a quarter of our HP, but also knocks off our Citrus Berry, so we lose the healing from that. We do get a Spore off into Hariyama. So here, I considered Volt switching into Regidrago. Maybe I can switch out hands, recycle the Fake Out, bring someone else in, but I really didn't know how much Volt Switch does into Regidrago because it is a special attack and it's resisted, and Regidrago just has a really high base HP, so I decided to just go for the Drain Punch anyways. And with the Amoonguss, since both my opponents are Spored and Pollen Puff isn't too powerful here, I thought I might as well just bring in the Flutter Mane. Maybe I could have like Volt Switched the Hariyama and just Pollen Puff the Regidrago for the KO. I think that might have gotten it. But I just decided to switch to Flutter Mane here, bring in a different offensive threat. I mean, it is pretty safe here. I expect Regidrago to go for a Dragon move if it wakes up, and Hariyama is forced to stay asleep for a turn. So we just pick up the KO on Regidrago. And my opponent is going to be sending in the Cresselia here, so I'm pretty happy to have the Flutter Mane out. I was kind of conflicted, like, do I want to take care of the Iron Hands first, or do I want to try to start Shadowballing the Cresselia? I was a little bit nervous of the Hariyama, like going for a Heavy Slam or something, and the Cresselia waking it up with a Lunar Blessing, so I decided to just go for the Hariyama slot. And I didn't know how much damage I would do. I know it's not a Flame Orb, so like maybe this thing's kind of like a fake Iron Hands that you want to go for Assault Vest like I am. So I just ended up going for a Moonblast and a Drain Punch into that slot. But I think that was a little bit overkill. And I probably could have just gone for a Moonblast plus Wild Charge into Cresselia. So maybe they tried to protect or something on the Iron Hands, not the Iron Hands, the Flesh Hands. The Moonblast just gets the KO on Hariyama. And so we get a little bit of Drain Punch damage into Cresselia, but Cresselia is not going to be doing too much damage into our team. They do set up Trick Room here though, so that kind of hints to me that their last Mon is probably good for Trick Room. Maybe like that Torkoal. I'm guessing not like the Tinglu. And as you can see, last Mon is the Torkoal, but we do have Water Terra Iron Hands here with the Assault Vest, and I think that should be pretty solid in helping to deal with that Torkoal. I could let the Flutter Mane go down here, but I kind of didn't want to. I was a little bit scared that I might be lacking damage into the Cresselia if the Flutter Mane went down, so I decided to just switch into Chen Pao here. I thought maybe they might go for like Helping Hand plus Eruption, and only get one hit off, and this way my Drain Punch into the Torkoal, which will help reduce its damage in the subsequent turns, will be boosted by the Sword of Ruin from Chen Pao. As long as we don't take 2 hits and like Cresselia goes for Dazzling Gleam or something to KO my Chien-Pao after the eruption. Yeah, my opponent's going to go for a Terra on the Torkoal here, Fire Terra for a little extra damage. And that's where our Water Terra Iron Hands comes in. It's great at taking special attacks. I was also a little bit scared of an ally switch for my opponent. But if they did ally switch, that means they only get 1 attack off, meaning my Chien-Pao would be pretty safe to go for like the Sucker Punch or something the following turn. But there's no ally switch, they just go for an Eruption, which means they might be attacking and killing my Chien-Pao before my Iron Hands can move. But actually Iron Hands goes before the Cresselia here. With that Drain Punch, and Cresselia is going to go for a Moonblast into the Iron Hands, so we get to keep the Chien-Pao alive, which is great. I thought about going for a Sucker Punch into the Torkoal. Drain Punch plus Sucker Punch should be enough to get the KO, but I was once again scared of an ally switch, and you know what, we can just protect the stall at the Trick Room, so I thought might as well. Either way, Torkoal's not going to be doing too much into my Iron Hands at this point with the eruptions, so I felt pretty good about this play. And good thing we didn't go for the Sucker Punch, because Torkoal just protects this turn, so it's not Choice Specs, maybe it's like Charcoal or something like that. We're just going to protect on the Chien-Pao. Drain Punch is going to fail. But Cresselia went for the Moonblast into the Chien-Pao. So, kind of an uneventful turn. We just burn a turn to Trick Room, which is great for us. Now we can just go for the Drain Punch plus Sucker Punch. Maybe they still have Ally Switch hidden up their sleeve, but hopefully not. But even if they do, we have Protect on Amoonguss to help stall out some turns. And there's not too many turns of Trick Room left anyways. So yeah, Sucker Punch makes contact with the Torkoal, and they go for Solar Beam. I really thought Drain Punch was going to just pick up the KO here, but they're not going to make it as easy as I thought. But luckily, Iron Hands, with that AV, can eat a Solar Beam. It's not boosted and damaged by the sun like an Eruption would be, or by like that Fire Terra, so we're able to hang on pretty handily. And with just Cresselia left, there's like no way they have enough damage to deal with the rest of our team, even if they Moonblast the Chien-Pao. Because we have the Shadow Ball, Flutter Mane in the back. We also have Amoonguss for Spores if I really wanted to do that. This next turn, I'm just going to bring in Amoonguss, Spore plus Volt Switch out, because the Trick Room is still up, so Amoonguss should be going first here. Maybe the Cresselia safety goggles, but we shouldn't be doing too much damage. And then we're just going to spam Shadow Ball, Shadow Ball, Shadow Ball until it fades. And the battle's just going to be cancelled, so GG's to our opponent. This battle was basically just Amoonguss putting everything to sleep, and then recognizing that Terra Water Iron Hands is going to be good into their back Trick Room. Then once I got rid of the Torkoal, they're really going to struggle to hit me for meaningful damage. I think what I could have done differently was maybe just sacking the Flutter Mane earlier and then bringing in the Chien-Pao safely, and then I can rely on Iron Hands plus Amoonguss, maybe Pollen Puff plus Wild Charge, maybe heal myself, and then I can finish off the Cresselia that way. My next opponent is using Rillaboom, Flutter Mane, Tornadus, Chien-Pao, Urshifu, and Dragonite. So they have a pretty scary team, a lot of meta Pokemon on it, and initially I thought Intimidate looked pretty good versus their Mons. I could intimidate the Rillaboom, U-turn, and cycle around, maybe use the U-turn to help pivot in my stronger attackers after taking a hit. I also thought the Flutter Mane, Chien-Pao, and Iron Hands seemed pretty good here. I would expect to see the Tornadus and having Ice moves and Electric moves to help deal with that Mon would be pretty helpful. But I end up leading the Iron Hands and the Flutter Mane here, not the Chien-Pao. Instead, just so I have like Fake Out pressure if I think they might be leading Fake Out. My own Urshifu seemed a little bit iffy here. Water moves are not that great into all of their team. Like, it'd be good into like Flutter Mane, but if they have the Tornadus there, I don't know, they could get speed control, threaten Bleak Storm, so it just didn't seem all that great for my own Urshifu. I end up not bringing the Rillaboom here, not the Rillaboom, the Amoonguss here, just because I'm scared of, like, you know, Rillaboom's immune to spores. They have Bleak Storm plus Icicle Crash, stuff like that, so I didn't bring the Amoonguss, but I think I should have heavily considered it just because I am bringing the Iron Hands with the intention of helping me get rid of their Tornadus. So I think Amoonguss in the back would have been fine, maybe instead of the Landorus. Landorus also kind of struggles to deal damage versus their team. I have Stomping Tantrum, Terra Blast, U-Turn, and Protect, so I would have to Terra to really do any meaningful damage into like half their team. My opponent's going to be leading the Tornadus and the Urshifu here versus our Flutter Mane and Iron Hands, and in this position I expect my opponent to protect their Urshifu, probably anticipating like a fake out, maybe on their Tornadus. They might have like a Covert Cloak or something, so I don't really feel like faking out that slot. I might just go for a Wild Charge here into the Tornadus, expecting the Urshifu to kind of be a little bit passive this turn. So I also won't go for a Grass Terra on my Flutter Mane either. And we're just gonna go with the Wild Charge into the Torn. I don't expect them to be able to attack with the Urshifu, expecting just that Protect. So I'm not too worried this turn. I end up Moonblasting into the Tornadus just in case they switch or bring out like a weird Terra, and they are going to go for a Terra this turn. But they're actually going to Terra the Urshifu. I was wondering, oh, is it a Ghost Terra anticipating a Fake Out? But no, it's just a Water Terra. It looks like they don't care about my Fake Out. And my opponent is going to Rain Dance on the Tornadus. So with the Rain and Terra Water, this Urshifu is going to be very scary. I Moonblasted the Torn here, not doing too much damage, and Surging Strikes here into the Iron Hands is going to pick up the KO after 3 hits. I had no clue Surging Strikes could do this much damage into Iron Hands, but now I do. I ran the calc using our own Urshifu, with Mystic Water and Attack Investment, and it's basically guaranteed to KO almost. So next up, I'm not quite sure who to bring. Tornadus is just going to faint if I bring it in. So I thought I might as well just bring in the Chin Pao, maybe try for a Sucker Punch here to get guaranteed damage into the Urshifu. And then I was gonna Terra Grass on the Flutter Mane. Hopefully it survives, but yeah, there's no chance Flutter Mane would survive this. I can't Energy Ball either, just because I've been locked into the Moonblast, so maybe if I'd Moonblasted the Urshifu turn 1 instead, I'd be in a much better position here. That way I could just Sucker Punch it to finish it off, and then just attack the Tornado slot as well. But now I can only Sucker Punch the Urshifu, and hope by some miracle that they misplay and we're able to get back into this game. But right now, this Urshifu is way too scary. We're going to commit to Terra Grass here, even though it's not going to help us. I just didn't know at the time that Urshifu with Terra Water Surging Strikes does that much damage in the rain. Here's a Sucker Punch, not even doing half. And there's a Tailwind from their Tornadus. And Surging Strikes goes into the Qian Pao. And that is one Surging Strike. It does that much damage. Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, no way Flutter Mane would have survived that. Now we're just Grass Terra in front of these guys. And I kind of wish I saved the Terra for someone else instead, maybe like that Landorus, but either way, this battle's basically wrapped up. My opponent can go for like a Bleak Storm or something like that. They could bring in a different Mon potentially, we'll see. I mean, they do have Tailwind up, so basically any Mon they bring in was gonna KO my Flutter Mane, and my Landorus can't really KO their Tornadus. They're gonna send in the Rillaboom here. The only way I can really damage that thing is gonna be this U-turn. But yeah, battle's basically lost here. I think what I should have done in the lead was Terra Grass the Flutter Mane and go for Energy Ball into Urshifu and then Wild Charge with the Iron Hands into the Tornadus. That way if they Rain Dance, Flutter Mane's going to move before the Urshifu and pick up the KO. If they Tailwind, Flutter Mane and Iron Hands should both survive the Surging Strikes, and then I'll end up getting a double KO on turn 1. Then I could have Intimidate cycled with the Landorus against their back 2 Mons, or maybe just brought in the Amoonguss if I brought that instead. And I think I would have been okay in the end. So I don't know how fast the Rillaboom is here, but it's actually going to go first this turn faster than the Tornadus and just U-turn into my Flutter Mane, so the U-turn I locked in with the Landorus is really not going to be doing too much into the Dragonite that's switching in. So yeah, just a little bit of style points for my opponent. And yeah, we're just going to forfeit here. We can't really damage these guys. And that's going to be a GG to our opponent. That's going to be all for this video, and thank you so much for watching. I didn't want to share my notes just yet because I've only played these few games so far, so I want to be sharing them in my next video with this team after I've gotten a little bit more experience. As always, if you don't want to miss the next video, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, bye bye.